results matter. The great thing about sports is the finality of each event. There is a clear result with one team succeeding and the other team heading back to the drawing board. One team accomplishing the ultimate prize and main objective with every other team having room for improvement and a bit of fear that they may not come as close to the goal next season as they just did. There is no fan, team owner, media member, or any person in the sports ecosystem that will ever accept a close win over an actual win. No matter what the analytics tell you, the only stat that matters is how many points did your team score and how many points did they give up. Which of the two totals is the highest amount will tell you whether you succeeded or failed. There is no middle ground. For a team that is rebuilding, there is room for morale victories, where you are able to see progress against a goal. There is the ability to track performance against expectation, which can be helpful when you are still in a phase where you do not believe your team can reasonably compete against others that are further ahead in their roster cycles. If you are the head coach of a playoff team that is 3 or 4 years into consecutive playoff appearances, then there is no room for morale victories. Telling the media that you analytically won 2 or 3 of the 4 games played, but lost the actual game is missing the whole point of why you played the game in the first place. The whole purpose of sports is to win the game, the event, the championship, and repeat. As a political economist, I have spoken in favor of facts, evidence, and data, all of which make up analytics, but I do not think the data alone is the prize. It is what you do with that data to move the project forward, course correct, or find hidden wins. The Knicks may not have been analytically efficient, but they spent round after round putting a lot of basketballs in the hoop, forging their way to the finals. It may not have been efficient in the eyes of stats people, but it is surely effective to their fan base and their players. Whether it holds up against the Thunder or Spurs, only time will tell. From a leadership perspective, I do not think it is helpful to paint a useless picture. In many fields, that is what you do with analytics if you fail to accomplish the main goal. For instance, if you did not meet your growth in sales, you will look at the data to say that you increased sales in these groups to show that there was some progress and a foundation to build upon in the future. In sports, there is no one wanting to hear that you are beating a team that you clearly are not. A better approach would be messaging that the team is doing many things right and being efficient, but you need more of it and on both sides of the ball. Fans and the media do not really like excuses except for fodder to troll opposing fans for their team losing. I think analytics is important, but sometimes people get so enamored about the data and the underlying trends that they miss the big picture. Like when company leaders focus on their reporting abilities, but fail to see that they have not implemented any strategic advantages from that reporting. They are missing the real end goal in favor of near-term niceties that may not yield real fruit. For players that will be traded away, retire, or released, they are not going to rest assured that they analytically won the series, but are watching their opponent prevail and find themselves at a career crossroad. Understanding our past protects society from making the same mistakes? Do you truly know history or simply remember what one has told you about it? Or their perspective of events? The ability to understand events and the context they occur in can be very helpful in understanding the ebbs and flows of our society and to get better insight on the nature of our politics, and whose rhetoric is fact-based or who is misleading you. There are so many arguments that span generations, arguments that evolve as our society and economy change, points of view shift, events change how we view issues. Sometimes, there are some that there is no great solution at the moment, and you can see that through the lens of different historical approaches. The more you delve deeper down to understand how our fellow Americans lived and how they may have viewed the world, how they lived, and how society operated is important. Some people tend to apply current morals backwards, pretending like some principles are universal. It may be apparent to us now, but sometimes we do not consider other factors that made people hang on to controversial behaviors. Even in the modern world, people will never harm their own interests simply to appease another. For me, my history is not one focused on judging the events, but understanding the situations and the lessons learned from them. To understand how people did similar functions that we do today without the benefit of advanced technology. For instance, how a Civil War general could redirect incoming troops when they lacked telephones, telegraphs, let alone our current technology. While some do not want to acknowledge the South, they managed to fight for their livelihood despite the technological disadvantages that they faced compared to the North. What people do not want to acknowledge is the lack of interactions between the North and South and the repercussions of the gap in technology and economic advancements. While people often demonize them for what they fought for, they had no real choice at that moment because the North was neither in a rush nor saw a competitive advantage in sharing with the South. It was easy for the North to demand change, when the North did not really want to deal with some of the change either. In modern America, there is more openness to share technology because it is great for business. And we travel and interact with each other so much more than back then. Now, we view each other as Americans rather than citizens of a state. understanding the different cultures and how isolated communities really impacted our society and still does to some degree. I enjoy traveling and visiting Civil War sites, Revolutionary War sites, and other areas because there is so much to learn about our history and to appreciate the complexity of our society. We are so blessed with not only cultural diversity, but regional diversity that helps shape our rugged and innovative culture. Many nations are monolithic. Many European nations are culturally similar throughout, except for ones that were united later on. But the United States is really 50 states sharing one nation. Technically, maybe more when you consider how states reflect differently within their own borders. South Jersey people are far different than North Jersey people, while Central Jersey people just want to be acknowledged as existing. I would go even as far as there being Shore people and Northwestern Jersey people. All 5 groups make up the population of the greatest state in America. Now, I do not really think there is one great state over others. As I travel more and more, there are many places that I can see areas of perceived opportunities, but far more areas where I admire their culture, community, and way of life. The important lesson I learned is to stop applying my values to other people and appreciate the people for what makes them unique. When we can embrace the greatness of others and appreciate our true diversity, rather than wallow in the ills and inconveniences that make up our daily lives, we can be more united, understanding, and American. Why we all need to be cynical of the opinions of others. There is plenty of weight placed on the views of others. Not always a bad thing. There are people in our lives that we trust, so we believe their advice and opinions are aimed at protecting us from harm and maybe helping us avoid pitfalls that they experienced firsthand. And there are others that just love to hear the sound of their own voice. Those views are ones that we may take with a grain of salt. Sometimes, we have to evaluate the advice and opinions from people we trust as well, as it might align with our interests, needs, or wants. Recently, I listened to a podcast and the speaker raised a great point that most people obediently listen to family and friends for career advice, but many times do not go to experts in that field. While advice can be helpful, it may not advance your needs because there is a gap in expertise. It is important that we critically think about the information people are all too eager to give us because it may not be applicable or relevant to our true needs. We need to be able to filter good, bad, or simply flawed information and take only what we can benefit from. Others we can simply ignore. Just like a good filter, we can just let it go in one ear and out the other without the fuss if not appropriate. For instance, there was a person who is highly educated and sometimes gives good advice, but holds flawed views on news sources who tried to question why I read anything from the Wall Street Journal. And when I retorted that they are not just a leading news source, but a leading and respected source for financial markets and investing, that person was not aware. She just was conditioned to view them as a right-of-center news organization. Sometimes, you just have to reject the bad information that may be out of the person's scope of expertise. Like, it may not make great sense in taking medical advice from a person outside the medical or clinical research field. It may not make sense to take legal advice from a person without a law degree, bar license, or not a regulator in the space. We need to seek out expert advice at times to confirm the information when it matters most.